So in order to prevent this video from being super long, I'm just going to tell this story in parts. So in about 2016, I purchased the Ancestry DNA kit and submitted my DNA, my saliva, for analysis. And mostly at that point, I was interested in the ethnicity results. So prior to even taking the test, I already had an Ancestry account, and I was actively building my family tree on both sides of my family from time to time. So I'd have like spurts where I would do it for days at a time, adding people to my tree as accurately as possible, and then I would take breaks. So anyway, in 2016, I decided that I wanted to do the Ancestry portion, and I, like I said, bought the test, I took it, sent it in, and got my results back. And I was pretty excited about the ethnicity breakdown at the time. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Finally can see possibly where my ancestors were from, specifically in Africa. As being in part of the African diaspora here in the United States, or African American, Black, whatever, obviously we're always tied to the entire continent of Africa, but because of the history, a lot of us don't even know like what part of that continent our ancestors were from. So having these ancestry results were the first time that I was able to see that possible breakout. Now I can tell you, as time has gone on, I've become less and less interested and wowed and amazed by the ethnicity breakdown portion of it, simply because I mean it's honestly just their best guess based on the reference population that they have at the moment and based on the technology we have at the moment. So as that technology gets better and as the reference populations get larger, the results will theoretically become more and more concise. But right now it's just their best guess given the information that they have now. So I really do take it all with a grain of salt. Now obviously I think the most accurate part of it is down to the continent. So obviously the majority of my ancestors were from Africa, and most likely West Africa, given where the Atlantic slave trade happened from. But the actual country breakdowns and the percentages of the country breakdowns, I just take all of that with a grain of salt. So yeah, like I said, as time moved on, I became less interested in the ethnicity breakdown of things and started getting back into the family tree side of things, and also looking at the DNA match list. For anyone who's not familiar with Ancestry DNA, and I think 23andMe does something similar, though I haven't seen their site. If you have opted into it, and if others who have also taken the test have opted into it, they will show you a list of people that are DNA relatives to you, and based on how much DNA you share, they will give you what they think is most likely your connection to them. So depending on the amount of DNA you share with any given person in your match list, they'll put them in a range of being first cousin, or second to third cousin, or third to fourth cousin, or like fifth and sixth on, they just say that's distant relative. And I tend not to pay as much attention to the distant relatives, only because I believe, and I'm not in a genetics expert or anything, but I believe I read something that the more distant the relation is, it may not even actually be that you're related to them. It just could be that you and that other person have a shared ancestry. Like you and the other person's relatives may have come from the same area, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily related. So like I said, I tend not to pay attention to the distant relations. So for the longest time, my closest matches on Ancestry were in the third cousin range and up, more distant. And when I say out of my DNA match list that I knew not one person, I am not exaggerating. I knew not one person in that list. And every day the list would keep growing and growing and growing into like the 600s and the 700s and the 800s up to like 1,000 something matches. And I know not one of those people in the entire list. And I did not think that was strange initially, only because I expected to have trouble identifying and making connections and figuring out how I was related to these other people. One, because of, like I mentioned before, the history of slavery in the United States. I don't even know where our family names came from. I don't know if there's actual genetic connections to those family names. And then also on my mother's side, there is a lot that is unknown about her side of the family tree, specifically with her father. My grandfather, he doesn't even know where his parents were from. I can't find any information on them whatsoever other than my great-grandmother's death record, and that's it. I don't know where she's originally from. I can't even find my great-grandfather's name anywhere. And then also with my mother's side, her and her most immediate family grew up in a state that is way, way far away from her extended family and where her maternal family is originally from. So, and I haven't seen those people since I was little, and I wouldn't know them if I bumped into them on the street. So since we have kind of been disconnected from that side of the family, I didn't know that much. So I actually didn't expect to know that many people on my mother's side. But my father's side is what surprised me, because his side of the family tree, I had that really built out. He has a large family. Now granted, both sides of my family have large families, but with my dad's side, we were more connected to the larger extended part of his family. His family has family reunions. Both his maternal and paternal side have family reunions every year. We haven't been able to go to every one of them, but we've gone to a lot of them, and we've met a lot of it. We've known a lot of extended family over the years. We've met a lot of extended family over the years. So, and I had his side of the family tree really built up more so than my mother's side. So I expected to at least recognize one name on my paternal side. Did not recognize any. Zero. No names on that side of the family. So again, I didn't think that was anything strange or weird. I just figured I was going to have a bit hard of a time trying to figure things out. Because of the slavery stuff, and also the record keeping. Like, the further you get back into the records and the slave records, there's not names on those censuses. They were just literally, they were kept as property. So if you ever looked at a slaveholder's list, it'll say, I don't know, girl, 18 years old, boy, 20 years old. Like, they just listed their property as such. They didn't have names. So I'm like, all right, this is just going to, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of patience. And eventually might have to pursue like professional help. I don't have money for that. So I was like, I try to do what I can. I actually did connect with an older gentleman who, I don't even know if I'm related to him, but he had a lot of information on my mother's family. And, my great uncle, before he passed a few years ago, had a genealogy book on our family that happened to actually be from that guy. That guy like compiled it, and at some point he had visited my great uncle or whatever, and he had that book. So I did get a lot of information from that book and was able to build my mom's side of the family tree out a little bit more. But again, I'd been messaging, besides him, I'd been messaging with some other people on Ancestry, also doing research. I'm showing his relation to them, trying to figure out how we're related. We can't figure jack squat out, but we communicate periodically we think we have additional information. Anyway, fast forward to about, it's maybe been about a month ago now, I'm not sure, maybe a month ago. I'm trying to hurry up and not make this too long and out of order. But anyway, no, before I even get to that, there was somebody who popped up in my, two people who popped up in my second cousin range list, that I sent messages to, never heard back. I was trying to figure out how we were related. I'm like, oh, you guys are the closest relation I have on here so far. You know, let me know if you'd be interested in connecting, trying to figure out how we're related. Crickets, nothing from them. The one I was able to find on Facebook the account was administered by somebody else who I was not related to, but I was related to the person who was administering that specific account. So I found the administrator's Facebook, and then I found the Facebook of the person she was administering for, and it's a son, and he is adopted. So I was like, all right, maybe that's why she's not reaching out to me, because he's adopted and she